Okay. Hello and welcome. I am very happy today to introduce my husband, Eric. He is a dad, a pilot in the Marine Corps, and he has taken up learning how to breathe. Breathing is for everybody, but learning how to breathe better and for a purpose is what he's going to be speaking to us about today. And so I'm going to turn it over to him with one caveat. So all of us can breathe naturally, but some of us have difficulty with repeated bronchitis or repeated pneumonia or asthma. And so if you have had those conditions, just be very aware of your body and how that's going to affect the way these breathing exercises are going to affect you differently than the average of us who are already in good shape or in good health. So with that warning and caution, I'm going to turn it over to Eric, and he's going to teach us.
Hey, what's up, guys? Happy Saturday and good afternoon for wherever you are. So yeah, I'm Eric, and a little bit of background on me. So as far as athletics go, my main interest is ultra endurance running. So I run anything from 30 miles, 50K up to the 100-mile distance. And that's really kind of where I live. And I really became interested in breathing throughout as I'm training my body and preparing my body for how to just be able to adapt my body to that, but also how to ensure that I have the endurance, because so much of that is cardiovascular along with musculoskeletal, in order to be successful at those distances. And I ran across really some studies in November of last year, and that really piqued my interest. There's a guy named Scott Carney who wrote about a guy named Wim Hof, who's in Holland. Some of you folks probably have heard about him. He's known as the Iceman, and I've learned a lot from him. I've also learned a lot from Brian McKenzie, who is a CrossFitter and then a personal trainer in California. And then there's some other resources that I will share with you at the end. And the thing that really caused me to become so interested in breathing is, I don't know about you guys, but as I have, I'm 41 now, so through my 41 years of life, especially as I started getting a little bit older through my 30s, I began having some issues with digestion. I found that I would tend to be somewhat tense and tight, especially with my upper body. And then also I would struggle a little bit with anxiety. And you always hear about how breathing is supposed to help that, but I never really understood how breathing was supposed to help that. And so from the physical side, as far as endurance running, ultra running, to just being able to control my emotions, to control how my body responds to things, and then for being able to recover after a very hard training session, that's really what turned me on to breathing. So what I want to share with you today is just simply what I've learned, and then I want to point you guys into, give you some resources that you can go to if you really want to dig deeper. So the first thing I want to start with, and this was a big learning point for me, was that carbon dioxide actually is what causes us to have a stress reaction. If you think about carbon dioxide like the fire alarm in your kitchen, it's really good when the fire alarm goes off, right? Because it means the toast is burning, or maybe we've cooked the bacon too much. But if the fire alarm is going off every time we try to cook, that's not a good thing. And that's what happens to most folks because of carbon dioxide. And our tolerance for carbon dioxide tends to be very, very low. So if we can increase our tolerance to carbon dioxide, we will actually be able to perform better, to handle stress better, and be able to recover faster. Interestingly enough, carbon dioxide is also what signals our brain for us to breathe. So when you have that desire to gasp for air, or your heart starts racing faster, that's carbon dioxide that is telling your body to respond in that way. So how do we train our body to do that? How do we build our CO2 tolerance to make ourselves stronger, fitter, and more resilient? Interestingly enough, the key to that is nasal breathing. There's a lot of great things to nasal breathing, and we'll talk about some of the basics here in just a minute. But interestingly, they found that when you breathe through your nose, not only does it calm you and allow for your CO2 tolerance to actually go up and for the oxygenates your body in a more efficient way. But it actually also helps you remain healthier because I think it's called nitric oxide that resides in your nasal passages, and that kills bad bacteria. Additionally, all the different nose hairs, your cilia, that sort of thing inside your nose, it filters out a lot of toxins that would be coming into your body. So if you were to mouth breathe, if you were to breathe through your mouth predominantly, you're not filtering out toxins and you're not killing the bacteria that goes in. What's interesting is the Dutch did a study that actually involved Wim Hof as I was doing some research, and this is what kind of led me to Wim Hof. So this research in Holland, they had a test study. They had 25 folks in one camp and they had 25 folks in another camp. And what they did is they went through a couple of days of nasal breathing training with one side, and then the other side, they didn't do any breathing prep for them. And then they injected them with a flu-like substance, so a flu-like virus. Of the 25 folks that did the nasal breathing protocol, 75% of them exhibited no symptoms and remained well. In the group that did not do the nasal breathing, all 25 of them got sick. So really quite interesting. So that's really what led me into this. Other great side effects of nasal breathing are things such as reduced stress. You're going to sleep better at night because of apnea and snoring and that sort of thing. Again, filtering out the toxins. Some other things are reduced blood pressure and blood sugar regulation. So those are some of the other side effects to nasal breathing. So that really tipped me off. Okay, cool. So nasal breathing is the way to go. Awesome. Well, let's talk about how do we do that? How do we successfully nasal breathe? Well, the first thing I want to point out is that we here in the West, we tend to mouth breathe, and we also tend to breathe with our upper chest as opposed to our lower chest. There's a lot of different reasons for that anthropologically and culturally. And what's interesting, if you were to tell your kids, hey, take a deep breath, what they would typically do is they would probably do something like this. They're going to lift up with their chest. And that's what we call vertical breathing. It's actually not very effective at all because it's shutting off the predominance of your lung capacity below your rib cage. And it's limiting how your lungs are able to expand and the amount of oxygen you are able to take in. So it's kind of become a cultural thing. What we want to do is we want to breathe in the center of our belly. And if you think about the old pictures of yogis have known this for centuries now. And we are just beginning, it's a practice we do in yoga, but really here in the West and as moderns or postmoderns, we're just now beginning to understand the connection between our breathing and overall both mental and physical wellness. So if you think about your belly like a balloon down here, just below your rib cage, that is where the predominance of your breath needs to take place. And this is also kind of weird, especially for me. I've always been just like a typical American. I'm very concerned about what my body image looks like. And so we have a tendency as we walk around to kind of stick our chest out, shoulders back, and we want to have as minimal a midsection as possible. But unfortunately, that inhibits our breathing quite a bit. Posture also inhibits our breathing quite a bit. And I am always having to work on my posture. So as you can see right now, I'm just trying to sit up. I'm cross-legged. It's a fairly comfortable position for me. And this is how I can practice my breathing. So the first thing that we need to do when it comes to nasal breathing is just being aware of how we're breathing. If we're not talking or we're not eating, we need to be thinking about breathing through our nose. So simply just aware. And then once we're aware of that, just breathe through our nose and then out through your nose. And then practice utilizing your stomach here, just below your rib cage. And the way that I like to demonstrate that is I just have my hands here on my belly. And what I'll do is I'm going to breathe in through my nose. And I want to see my hands separate and then retract and come back in. Or to really get my rib cage bowing out is putting my hands here on my sides. And there's not as much movement there for me. It's more so out here in the front. So I think about my stomach as a big balloon. As I take air in, that balloon comes out, it gets bigger. And then as I inhale, the balloon comes back in, it contracts. So it's contracting and coming back in. Also, what's interesting is when we start to feel tired after a hard workout or a long run, or we've been doing a very hard, intense CrossFit or endurance type workout, it's not necessarily because of our VO2 max or the ability to our cardiovascular strength. It's actually our breathing muscles that need the work. So by focusing on breathing in through our nose in the inhale, where we're just expanding our stomach, and then for the exhale, contracting those muscles, we're strengthening our breathing muscles, and we're allowing for our breath to become stronger and stronger. So just a simple exercise that we can do, whether it's just sitting at our desk or just sitting here in a chair, is I'm just going to do a simple breathing exercise. In through my nose, what I'm going to do is I'm going to breathe in for 3, a count of 3. I'm going to hold it for a second, and then I'm going to do a count of 6 on the exhale. And it's just going to look just like this, just sitting here nice and comfortable. Hold it for a minute, and then out. And there's 6. And I'm just going to do that for a minute or two, just simply to get my body breathing, using my stomach, make sure it's working. And that's a great thing to do either just when you wake up in the morning or just before you go to bed. So that's a quick exercise that gets you going for nasal breathing. All right. So how does this apply to us when we are actually moving and we're working out? So as a runner, I have found that there is a certain breathing in and a breathing out that allows for an optimum passage of air throughout my system. Studies have found that for most runners, it's a 2-2 cadence that works out really well. So for every 2 steps, you're inhaling. And then as you exhale, you're doing that for 2 steps. And that's when, for most runners, when they're at their max effort, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see an inhale 2 steps, and then you're going to see an exhale 2 steps. If you're going to go for a very long distance, you want to start with an inhale over 4 steps. So an inhale of 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, exhale of 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. And that's a great way to start. And then from there, you can experiment with an inhale of 3 steps and then an exhale of 3 steps. And you'll find that as you start going faster and your effort goes up, you're going to end up going down to that 2 steps per breath in and then 2 steps per breath out. What I have found for me is, from a breathing perspective, when I'm going very, very long distances, I've found that 3 steps on the inhale and then 2 steps on the exhale is what allows me to get the maximum of air in my system without raising my heart rate and staying in a very static position for long distances. So that's what's worked for me. And I would encourage all of you to go try that. Start out with the 4 steps on the inhale, 4 steps on the exhale, and then as your pace increases, see if you can go to a 3-2, and then finally to a 2-2. And what that does, it's almost like switching gears in your car or on your bike. It allows you to go up or go down as required. How about for precision type sports, like whether it's basketball or shooting a free throw, or actually shooting a gun, something that requires precision? Again, that's where nasal breathing, again, where it's our center that is doing the predominance of the movement here. Our shoulders remain steady. Our base remains very secure. So if we're about to make a free throw, we can experiment with breathe in through our belly, release, and then exhale through our nose. Sometimes some people find that as they come up to make the throw or the shot with the gun, they breathe in, then they breathe out, and they shoot. What that does is that calms the body. It calms the heart rate. The center of your body is doing the majority of the work here, and there's no movement in your shoulders. How about for a more stressful situation? So, this is training that goes into some of the elite military units, and then also some of police officers who find themselves in a very stressful situation, or just like us, maybe we've been home all day with the kids and we're just stressed. This is where being able to breathe, utilizing our center, again on that cadence of breathing in for 3 seconds. So just 1, 2, 3, hold it, and then exhaling, going back down for 6 seconds. And if you do that, you find your heart rate immediately goes down, your calmness and your vision begins to expand, because anytime we begin to feel stress, anytime we begin to feel anxiety, we're going to get a constriction of our vision. Our heart rate is going to increase, and our ability to make good decisions is also going to decrease as well. So that's where breathing in through our nose, holding it, and then out through our nose is going to allow us to remain in control. Additionally, what's very interesting about this is after a very intense workout, so for me what that means is a track workout. If I've done 800s, and as soon as I cross that line, I'm going to be winded. So I've been working at the top of my VO2 max. I've pushed myself very hard. And our tendency is as soon as we cross the line, it's hands on our hips or hands on the top of our head, and we're just trying to get as much air into our system as possible. The way to overcome that, and this is very important for either a quick recovery after a sprint workout, or maybe you're doing a set on the erg, or you're doing some sort of mixed martial art or you're boxing where you get just a moment to try to reset your system before you push on to the next attack or the next 800. And what we want to do, our tendency is to breathe very rapidly and get as much air in our system as we can. But what we actually want to do is calm ourselves, just stop, and then breathe in through our nose. So it's just simply this. And then let it settle for a second. You want to hold it. And then the exhale goes out. That will immediately bring your heart rate down, which is going to cause your overall respiration rate to decrease, which is going to increase your endurance and also quicken your recovery and allow you to respond to the next set or the next threat much, much quicker. All right? So going back to the CO2 tolerance, there's a couple of ways that we can build that over time. But I first want to introduce you to a CO2 tolerance test. And we don't have to do it right now, but it's something you can do once you're done watching this, or you can go watch some other videos on some links that I'll give you here in just a minute. But what you want to do is, as you're sitting here or laying down in a comfortable position, you're simply going to breathe in and out through your nose 3 times. So just simply breathing in and out 3 times. On the 4th, we're going to fill our lungs. We're going to take a big, deep breath, fill our stomach, the lung cavity as much as we can, and then we're going to slowly exhale. And it's just a very slow exhale here, as much as you can. Eventually, you're tightening your stomach muscles. You're contracting your stomach underneath the ribs, getting as much air out of your system as you can. And then as soon as you have a desire, as soon as you swallow, or as soon as you breathe, you're going to stop your watch. And you're going to time it, and you're going to see what it is. This is the way that free divers train to build their CO2 tolerance, and then other athletes as well. And what they've found is 80 seconds or above is what they call elite. So if you're able to exhale for 1 minute and 20 seconds, you're in that very elite category. If you're around between 60 and 80 seconds, you're advanced. So this is typically where free divers are in that advanced to elite. And then anywhere from about 40 seconds to 60 seconds, that's where I currently am right now. I can usually do it for about 50. That's where that's good, but I guess they call it intermediate, really. And so I train myself to build more of the CO2 tolerance. As we get down to 30 seconds and below, what they found with those individuals is they have a very low CO2 tolerance, and they tend to have a very reactive response to threats or stress, and tend to be slower at recovery in between sets or after a hard training session. So again, very, very interesting. So how do we develop our CO2 tolerance? What's a very basic thing we can do? And that's where the bellows breath comes in. The bellows breath is just simply where we're going to sit here, and I like to put my hands here on my stomach, and I'm just going to inhale, take a nice normal breath, and then I'm going to exhale for 20 seconds. And again, I just do that, and I do that 5 times. And once that 5 times is done, then I'll do another CO2 tolerance test, and you'll find that you're actually better after you do that. But the bellows breath, again, just normal breath in, filling the lung cavity, filling your stomach. Stomach's going to come out. Your hands are coming away from your stomach a little bit. Your fingers are coming apart. And then you're just going to exhale through your nose 20 to 25 seconds. And you do that set 3 to 5 times. And that's a great way to build your CO2 tolerance, but also it's a great way to calm yourself and actually prepare yourself for a more intense workout. And then finally, another great thing that I do just before bed is where I tend to typically doing this is the Wim Hof breathing protocol. And the Wim Hof breathing protocol is I find that I'm either sitting like this or I'm laying down. I tend to do better while I'm laying down. And it's where you're going to take 30 very full rapid breaths. So it looks more like this. Just you're going to fill everything as you can, and then it's going to come out. And I find that I tend to have to exhale through my mouth to get the amount of oxygen out that I need. And what you're doing here is you're actually building up carbon dioxide in your system. And then you're going to, on that last, the 30th breath, as you exhale, you're going to empty everything out of your system. All the air out of your system is going to come out. And then once that's done, you're going to have your carbon dioxide is going to be high now in your body, and you're going to hold your breath. This is also an exercise that freedivers do, and Wim Hof uses it for a number of other different things as well. And what you'll find here is that you'll be able to hold your breath for quite a long period of time. You do this set for about 3 to 5 times minimum. I end up doing 3. And then what will happen is you're able to hold your breath for sequentially longer periods of time as you go along. The longest that I've been able to hold my breath after the 3rd session is over 3 minutes. And Wim Hof says that after holding your breath, as you get to 3 minutes, you've kind of reprogrammed, you've overcome your parasympathetic response system, because you're able to overcome the carbon dioxide in your system, and you're able to control your mind in a way to where you're not panic breathing. You're able to hold your breath, you're able to overcome the panic, and you really get into a very restful state. So it's a very great meditation practice I've found for me also. Another neat little body hack here is at the end. So if you do 3 sets, and then on your 4th set, you can do a set of power push-ups or power dips, cleans, or pull-ups, something along those lines, something that's somewhat anaerobic. And what you'll find is your typical max set. For me, I do push-ups on my 4th set. What you'll find is after that 4th set, you will actually double or triple what your normal push-up tolerance is. So if I am normally able to do 60 push-ups at one time without resting, without breathing, I've been able to get that up to about 120 to 130 on one breath. It's really quite interesting. So, and you'll see that again begin to increase over time. So that's somewhat of a neat body hack, simply because you're controlling the carbon dioxide that is in your system. So that's really where I'm at, guys. That's what I have learned. Really, the important thing here is that it comes back to posture. It comes back to nasal breathing. It comes back to breathing with your center and allowing for your stomach to come out and then contract, and then working our breathing muscles as opposed to just our cardiovascular health in order to get those great cardiovascular and endurance gains. And also to put us in a good position for controlling our body to overcome stress, or more of the fine type motor skills when it comes to shooting, whether it's a basketball or handling a weapon or just handling stress. So that's what I've learned, and that's really where I am at right now. Just to give you guys some resources, and I'll send these links to Aaron. because really these are the folks you want to go to really dig into this. This is just simply an introduction and showing you guys where to go with it. So here's a great book. It's called Breathing for Warriors. And it's a phenomenal read simply on the mechanics of breathing, particularly nasal breathing. And it applies, he's able to, Dr. Belisa Vranich and Brian Sabin are able to apply this to everything we do, from running, cycling, CrossFit, you name it, martial arts. They're able to talk us through the mechanics of how to breathe properly. The Brian McKenzie's site is one of my go-to sites as well, and that is at shiftadapt.com. You can check that out. He's got a couple of really good videos that are phenomenal introduction videos as well. And then finally, Wim Hof. And Wim Hof is spelled WIMHOFF.com. And again, I'll send those links to Erin so she can pass that out to everyone. So that's where I'm at, guys. Anybody have any questions? All right, cool. Well, thanks for your time, everyone. Have a great rest of your Saturday. See ya.